The need for mind management. We all wish to enhance the quality of our life, to feel joyful and happy. We desire to think noble and sublime thoughts. We wish to do productive work that makes a difference in the world. In short, we all seek to be better human beings. An autoscript embedded within our soul inspires us to be more perfect, more godlike. Yet, not everyone achieves their cherished goals. While a few lead inspired lives with noble values and find deep satisfaction in their work and relationships, the vast majority stumble along the journey of life, tripping repeatedly over anger, greed, tension, and anxiety. No matter how much they struggle, they seem to attract misery and failure. And even if they do succeed externally, their hearts stay dejected and happiness eludes them. Why is reality so different from our dreams and aspirations? It is not money, power, fame, or an affluent upbringing that determines the quality of our life. There are many successful people who had very little of these external resources, and yet they achieved happiness, productivity, and fulfillment. There are also innumerable others who had all these but still could not lift themselves from wretchedness. Where did they go wrong? The key to happiness and success. An example of an inspired individual was Helen Keller, a renowned philanthropist of the last century. When she was only 19 months old, a severe infection made her deaf and blind. Consequently, she could not learn to speak and often threw tantrums to communicate her frustration to her family. When Helen Keller was 7 years old, her parents found a special needs school and a willing teacher in Anne Sullivan. Partially blind herself, Anne first tried teaching language to little Helen by signing letters onto the child's hand. Helen did not immediately respond, but the patient teacher was determined to find a way to communicate with the young girl. One day, Anne placed Helen's hand under a water spout. With cool water running over one hand, Anne wrote the letters W, A, T, E, R on Helen's other hand. Suddenly, something clicked within Helen. For the first time in her life, she understood that external objects had names. She was so excited that she eagerly begged to learn more names. By nightfall, she had learned the names of 30 more objects. Helen proceeded to enthusiastically learn the signs for people and things in her outside world. She picked up the Braille system for the blind. Soon, she started grasping abstract ideas like the meaning of the word love. As this door opened new ways to understand the world, she devoted herself to learning all she could. She began to read classical books, and books of knowledge like other students of her age. As a young adult, Helen became determined to join Harvard University, although her parents and friends were not so encouraging. Helen persevered, passed the required test, and was accepted at Radcliffe College, the women's college associated with Harvard. She graduated with academic honors despite the fact that she was deaf, blind, and unable to speak. Helen now wanted to learn to speak like others around her. She was guided to touch the face, mouth, and throat of Anne Sullivan while her teacher was speaking, and astoundingly, Helen responded to this kinesthetic experience by producing the sounds of speech herself. Helen learned to speak well enough to give lectures that over time inspired normal, deaf, and blind people everywhere. In her later years, Helen became a philanthropist, seeking ways to fund the education of others. She lived till the ripe age of 87. Here are a couple of her famous quotations to savor. When one door of happiness closes, another opens. But often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the one which has been opened for us. Life is exciting business, and most exciting when it is loved for others. Contrast Helen Keller with others, whose outer circumstances were exceptionally favorable, yet they failed miserably. One such person was Elvis Presley, an icon of the rock and roll generation. He was handsome, wealthy, a movie actor, possessed a golden voice, and often called the king of rock and roll. Yet he was wretchedly unhappy, and often used a round of drugs to gear up for a musical performance, followed by another round to calm him down after the performance. Elvis Presley gorged on drugs, sex, and songs that possibly thrill his fans more than him. Though externally he was so successful, yet internally he was nearly bankrupt. He died prematurely at the age of 42 with heart complications other than serious health problems and a long-time addiction to drugs. The singer once lamented, "Truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a while, but it ain't going away." How different were these two luminaries? What did Helen Keller have that enabled her to succeed beyond imagination, despite possessing only 3 of the normal 5 human senses? And what did Elvis Presley not have that he failed so miserably in his personal life, although he lacked neither wealth, fame, nor talent? The key difference lay in the state of their mind. The mind, our best friend and worst enemy. Our mind is the single most important factor that determines the quality of our life. Successfully controlled, it becomes our best ally. But if allowed to run wild, it steals our inner peace and undermines all our productive endeavors. The Vedic scriptures inform us, Udhared Atmanatmanam Natman Anam avassadeyate atmeva hayatmano bandhur atmeva ripur atman. Elevate yourself through the power of your mind and not degrade yourself, for the mind can be the greatest assistant of the self and also its vilest enemy. What is this mind? It's a subtle machine fitted within us by God. While the body is the external machinery, the mind is the internal one. Its function is to generate thoughts, and it profusely engages in this activity throughout the waking state. It continues to work even when we dream. Only in deep sleep does the mind rest. This is why when people wake up from slumber, they say, Sukham aham asvapasam. I slept very peacefully. Na kimchi maham vedisham. I did not experience anything. During deep sleep, the mind is at rest and you experience blissful peace. At all other times, it stays active and creates thoughts incessantly. We experience both happiness and distress because of the state of our mind. Let us say that someone is in a miserable mood. You tell her something that generates a happy thought in her, and she smiles in glee. Next, presume another person is in a good mood. You convey bad news to him, which creates a miserable thought, and he instantly grimaces in despair. Both the experiences of glee and despair are results of the state of mind. Learn to cultivate a cheerful mind, and you will experience heavenly bliss even in the midst of the most hellish circumstances. On the other hand, if we harbor a miserable mind, we will suffer the torments of hell even if we are surrounded by heavenly luxury. British poet and philosopher John Milton described this perfectly in Paradise Lost. The mind is a place of its own, and in itself can make heaven out of hell and hell out of heaven. We dissipate a large portion of our energy in combating external enemies whom we perceive as potentially harmful to us. But the Vedic scriptures say the biggest foes such as lust, anger, greed, envy, and illusion reside in our own mind. These internal adversaries are even more pernicious than the outer ones. External opponents may injure us for a while, but the demons within have the ability to make every moment a living hell. For example, when our mind harbors animosity, the negative thoughts generated do more damage than the object of our hatred. Hence, it has been wisely said, resentment is like drinking poison and hoping that the other person dies. The poison referred to is the negativity we harbor within. The Buddha expressed this truth vividly. I have been insulted. I have been hurt. I have been beaten. I have been robbed. Misery does not cease in those who harbor such thoughts. I have been insulted. I have been hurt. I have been beaten. I have been robbed. Anger ceases in those who do not harbor such thoughts. If someone accidentally throws a stone at us, it may hurt for a while, few minutes. But by the next day, we would probably have forgotten about it. However, if someone says something unpleasant, it can agitate us for years. On the other hand, if we can get rid of such thoughts, we will experience sublime peace. Given the role of thoughts in bestowing hellish misery or celestial joy, it becomes important that we understand their power. The nature of thoughts. What are thoughts? They are subtle bundles of energy created in the factory of the mind. The atmosphere around us is full of energy waves that are invisible to the naked eye. If we take a radio set and rotate the channel tuner, broadcasting station appear in quick succession to reveal their existence. Radio waves are there, though we cannot see them. Similarly, thoughts too are subtle waves generated by the mind. Our thoughts impact us in multiple ways. Our body reacts to every thought we have, literally even chiseling our physical appearance. This is why we look at someone and remark, "Stay away from him. He seems to be a very angry guy." Or we look at another and say, "She seems like a very simple person. We can rely on her." In either case, the thoughts within sculpt the person's external looks. Secondly, thoughts fructify into actions. They are the internal roots from which all actions spring. This is based on a simple principle. Good thoughts fructify into good actions, and bad thoughts fructify into bad actions. Those who dedicate their lives to the service of humankind do not land there by accident. For years, they cultivated compassionate and noble thoughts in their mind until the energy of those accumulated thoughts blossomed into inspiring acts of sacrifice and service. Similarly, those who commit theft and murder naively blame circumstances for their sins. If we were to delve deeper, we would discover that they harbored sinful thoughts in their mind, and circumstances literally align themselves to fulfill their desires. If we wish to draw more favorable circumstances in our life, let's begin by improving our thoughts. Without understanding this cause and effect relationship, we put the cart before the horse when we struggle to discard bad actions from our personality without changing the underlying thoughts. Like diligent horticulturalists, we must carefully weed out all kinds of negative thoughts that sprout, such as anger, greed, hatred, envy, illusion, fear, and anxiety from the orchard of our mind. When we strive to improve the state of our mind, we then realize the import of the Vedic injunction. Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshaho. Panchadashi. The mind is the cause of bondage and the mind is the cause of liberation. The Buddha stated the same principle in different words. Suffering follows an evil thought, as the wheels of cart follow the oxen that draws it. Joy follows a pure thought, like a shadow that never leaves. The level of our consciousness is tied to our mind. Veritably, we are what our mind is. This is why the wise sages said, भूल न जाना इस नुस्खे को लब अनेक उठाओगे जैसा मन को बना सकोगे वैसे ही बन जाओगे. Do not forget these golden words. You will derive great benefit from them. The extent to which you uplift or degrade your mind, so your soul will be uplifted or degraded accordingly. The mind-body connection. We have seen how thoughts impact both our physical appearance and our actions. You may be surprised to learn that thoughts even impact our health. The Yog Vashisht, an ancient scripture, tells a revealing story about the mind-body connection. Lord Ram once undertook a tour of his kingdom to personally observe the condition of his people. He was dismayed to see them suffering from disease. Returning to his palace, he asked his preceptor, Maharishi Vashisht, Guruji, what is the cause of disease? Guru Vashisht replied, Ram, disease begins in the mind. When we harbor poisonous thoughts, the Manomaya Kosh, mental sheath, gets disturbed. This agitates the Pranamaya Kosh, vital energy sheath. That disturbance manifests in the Annamaya Kosh, physical body, as disease. This is, of course, a very simplistic explanation, for we all know that disease can have innumerable causes. Ayurveda too talks of two kinds of diseases, dosha and karma. Dosha diseases are reaction to bad karmas or actions from our past lives, while karma diseases are a consequence of defective habits of eating, sleeping, thinking, working, etc. in the present life. Behind both are negative thoughts that result in harmful habits and immoral actions. In the last few decades, modern medical science has begun acknowledging the mind-body connection. A powerful example of this is the placebo effect. A placebo is a harmless substance like a sugar pill given to patients instead of prescription drugs. However, patients are told they are being given medicine for their ailment. The consequence of consuming the placebo is that patients mentally believe they will now get well, and their thoughts induce them to recuperate even without taking actual medicine. One such study on the use of placebos was conducted by Dr. Stuart Wolfe in the 1950s. Dr. Wolfe conducted research on pregnant women who have a natural tendency to vomit in the first few months of pregnancy. When they would complain to Dr. Wolfe of symptoms of vomiting, he would give them ipecac, a drug that induces vomiting. Ipecac is often kept in laboratories as a safeguard. If anyone accidentally swallows poison and needs to vomit it out, ipecac is administered to induce the vomit. When Dr. Wolfe administered the drug to pregnant women as expected, the symptoms of vomiting were exacerbated. He would then tell them, "Don't worry, I have a wonder drug that has just been launched. It has been tested on thousands of patients and found to bring about miraculous suppression of the vomiting tendency. I will administer it to you now." Then he would give them the same ipecac that had earlier aggravated their urge to vomit, but this time the symptoms of vomiting would disappear for the night. The next morning, the tendency to vomit would again return. What was the reason for the cure? Even though it was the very drug that induces vomiting, it was the placebo effect. The patient's mind told them that they should feel better, and their bodies responded to their thoughts. Placebo effect can sometimes have a demeaning connotation and is often not well received by patients. If you tell people they got cured by the placebo effect, they are likely to say, "You mean it was all in my mind?" As a result, Herbert Benson and Richard Friedman coined the term remembered wellness. It is the phenomenon in which the subconscious mind remembers the state of wellness and replicates it in the present. The phenomenon of remembered wellness commonly occurs when patients visit their family physician. The doctor says, "Show me your symptoms," and patients find that their symptoms have disappeared. The mere fact that they are meeting the doctor tells their subconscious mind that they will now get well. Consequently, remembered wellness takes place and healing occurs. The reverse of this is remembered illness, a common example of which is white-collar hypertension. Patients may have perfect blood pressure at home, but when they visit the doctor, they find it has increased. What is the reason for this? In their minds, they think that since they are visiting the hospital, they must be unwell. They recall a previous state of illness and the body responds to their thoughts by increasing the blood pressure. This is the perfect example of the mind making the body sick. These examples demonstrate how illness is caused not only by viruses and bacteria, but also by the negativities the mind harbors. Thus, mere physical cure of a medical condition is not enough. True health requires managing the mind along with taking care of the body. In fact, the World Health Organization (WHO) defines health as the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Unfortunately, in the commotion of life, we often put mind management on the back seat. While we passionately pursue external success, not realizing the inner victories are the real basis for outer accomplishments. Let us therefore gain a better perspective on what goes on within us. The inner and outer worlds. The world we encounter is of two kinds. The first is the external world, made of earth, water, fire, air, and space. Since it is created by God, the master architect and designer, it is perfect just like him. The Vedas go to the extent of saying that God himself becomes the world. Yathorna nabhi shrijate grinate cha yath prithvyam oshadhyah sambhavanti yatha satha purushat keshalomani tatha ksharat sambhavata vishwam. As the spider extracts its web from its own body and reabsorbs it later, similarly, at the time of creation, God too manifests the world from within his own being and then absorbs it back into himself at the time of dissolution. In other words, the world is an inseparable part of God. Again, the Vedas state, Ishnopanishad, verse 1. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. The entire world and everything in it is the veritable form of God. Since the Creator is perfect and complete, the world is also perfect and complete. The external world has created to sustain the physical body. Apart from the gross external world, there is also a subtle inner world that each of us creates in our mind. This is the realms of our desires, attachment, and aversions due to our sanskars or accumulated tendencies of endless lifetimes. While the external world is the same for all, everyone's inner world is different and unique. Between these two worlds, the inner world is far more compelling. Agitation by physical objects is possible only as long as desires for them are present in the mind. If these desires are vanquished from within, then external objects no longer hold sway over us. In the Ramayana, Lord Ram said of his younger brother Bharat, Bharatai ho na rajmadhu vidhi hari hara padapai. What to speak of becoming proud by ascending the throne of Ayodhya? Bharat can never develop pride even if he ascends the throne of Brahma, Shankar or Vishnu. The reason for Ram's confidence in the infallibility of Bharat was that his inner world was clean and pure. Bharat had reached a state where his mind was free from the everyday material sentiments of anger, desire, jealousy, greed, and lust. As a result, he could never be swayed by the lure of power in the outer world. Lord Shiv emphasized the same maximum. Uma je Ram charan rata vigat kam mada krodh nija prabhu maya dekhin jagat kehi sana karahin virodh. O Parvati, those noble souls who free themselves from desire, pride, anger, and see the world as the form of their beloved Lord, towards whom can they be inimical? Hence, all saints who succeeded in purifying their inner world experience the external world as the veritable form of God. Thus, the situation in the external world cannot be the cause of our strife. Rather, it is the other way around. Inner thoughts bring external circumstances onto us, as will be explained in the next section. Thought by thought, we forge our destiny. When we encourage difficulties, we tend to hold the outer world responsible for our woes. but circumstances do not come by the throw of a dice. The world is governed not by chaos, but by eternal principles. And although it may not seem so to us, God has made this world perfectly to enable our purification. Consider the example of Ramdat, who is always annoyed to no end with the irascible behavior of Vishnudat, his obnoxious neighbor. To get away from him, Ramdat finally moves to another neighborhood only to find that his new neighbor is no better than Vishnudat. The experience repeats itself over and over again. Every time he moves, he encounters an equally obnoxious neighbor. Eventually, Ramdat decides to see the situation positively and begins using it as an opportunity to develop his own tolerance and patience, the very two virtues in which he is deficient. He realizes that circumstances in his life has gained for that very purpose. When he finally masters equipoise despite the worst behavior of his neighbor, he suddenly finds the situation changing. Lo, behold, wonderful citizens began moving into his neighborhood. In this manner, the material energy, Maya, arranges for the salvation of our soul. Circumstances come in our life for a purpose, and they remain until the purpose is served. When we have learned the lessons intended for us, the environment naturally changes and leads to a new set of situations that carry within them another lesson. This is a simple explanation of our life circumstances. Everyone is a mixture of virtues and frailties, just as situations are a myriad web of intricate constraints and opportunities. It is naive to think that we understand the precise reason for any particular situation in our life. Many circumstances are the result of our karmas or past action either in the present lifetime or in prior ones. It is literally time for stock taking. If we had sinned grievously in the past, painful situations come as punishment. They teach us that actions have consequences and that we should not sin again. At other times, God merely supplies us a rope to hang ourselves with. The situations providing ample opportunities to indulge in our most debased desire. Lessons follow much later through ill health, penury, and infamy among others. The so-called law of attraction, now so glibly touted in the world, is actually a very incomplete and inaccurate representation of reality. Nevertheless, the link between our inner desires in the past or the present and the circumstances in our life always exist. People really understand this cause and effect change and keep fighting with circumstances, blaming situations for all their miseries and feeling woefully victimized by them. The law of karma is very just. It takes into account our actions from all the past lifetimes. Where we are in life today is the result of our thoughts and actions in the past. Our thoughts today decide where we will be in life tomorrow. Rather than play the blame game or curse lady luck, we must focus on improving ourselves. The more we win our inner battles, the more we will find eternal success knocking at our door. It is quite simple. Thought by thought, we forge our destiny. Let's look at a young lady who leads a mediocre existence but cherishes a life full of purpose and value. She nurtures thoughts of pleasing God through loving service to society. The sublime thoughts of kind-heartedness and empathy seize her consciousness so strongly that she is filled with passion for making a difference in the lives of people. In a short while, opportunity knocks on her door to become an entrepreneur. She now finds herself pioneering a new cottage industry that trains hundreds of village women in self-employment. People marvel at her success, and the ignorant say that she simply got lucky. But the wise smile, knowing that she got what she merited. This perfect universe is not a game of roulette, where any crackpot can win the jackpot. A Taoist saying captures this perfectly. The snowflakes fall slowly to the ground, each flake to its proper place. There are eternal laws that govern the world, and the law of karma is one of them. When the lady deserved it, the universe provided her with just the right opportunity to serve according to her heart's desire. She made her life a success, and so can we, if we marshal our resources well. According to the Vedas, God created the world through his material energy, Maya. All the gross and subtle elements of the world have evolved from this material energy. Since it is God's Shakti or energy, Maya always acts in his service and works to fulfill his divine will. Thus, it orchestrates situations in the world for the gradual elevation of the soul, continually pushing us to move from our present state to perfection. You would have noticed that nothing in life and in this world is constant. We are incessantly pushed to grow and evolve. As soon as we learn one lesson, the next one is presented to us. Life is like a book that is constantly teaching us lessons. Having come in this world, improve we must. Be open to this learning. Be open to this learning. Let this world not become the university of hard knocks, where we are forced to progress the hard way through difficult experiences. The wise do not waste their energy in cursing circumstances. They quickly learn the lessons inherent in the situation and progress rapidly forward on the journey of internal growth and development. Leverage the resources God has blessed us with. After reading the success story in the previous section, we may wonder if we have what it takes to succeed likewise. We do. But instead of realizing the importance of what we have, we remain focused on what we lack. Let me tell you the story of a beggar I once met. It was over 2 decades ago in a little town called Usk in the state of Odisha in the eastern India. I was walking in the morning by myself. As I approached the bridge, I saw a mendicant standing atop the railing, gathering courage to plunge into the river below. It was obvious that he was about to give up his life. I screamed, "What are you doing? Please stop!" Startled, he looked at me and hesitated. He jumped back on the road. And I ran to grab his arm. "Why were you considering such a cowardly act?" I chided him. Don't you know if you had committed suicide, you would have to become a ghost in your next life. As punishment for rejecting your physical body, you would then not possess a cross body in your next life. You would have to live as a ghost with just a subtle body. That would be very painful existence because you would have material desires, but no way of fulfilling them. Hearing about the consequences of suicide made him change his mind. He began sharing with me the pain he was harboring within. God has given me nothing, he whined. I have only poverty and misery to look forward to in life. If I give you 50 lakh rupees, will you become positive about your future? I asked him. Of course I will, he retorted. Okay, but in exchange, I will need something from you. You will have to give me your 2 eyes. What? Do you expect me to be blind? I cannot give you my eyes. That means your eyes are more valuable than 50 lakh rupees. This is why you are not willing to part with them for that sum of money. You were saying that God has given you nothing. Count your eyes as the first grace of God. Okay, I continued. I'm willing to offer you another deal. Take 25 lakh rupees and give me your 2 arms. Absolutely not. I would rather have my arms than your 25 lakh rupees. This means your arms are more valuable than 25 lakh rupees. Count another grace of God. Will you give me your 2 legs if I offer you 15 lakh rupees? In this way, I kept assigning a value to his different body parts in accordance with his perception. Look, I said, you have over 1 crore rupees right here in your body. The problem is that though you have received so much from God, you have not realized the value of His gifts. Like that mendicant, we too tend to undervalue the graces we have received from the benevolent Lord. All of us are blessed with 2 wonderful eyes, each fitted with 125 million photoreceptors for converting light into electrical signals. They help us see the colors of the rainbow, the crimson sky of the setting sun, the plumes of the peacock, the dewdrops in the lotus leaf, and the flight of an eagle. Isn't that an exceptional grace that we should be delighted about? Similarly, we often take the gift of hearing for granted. Imagine what life would be like if we couldn't hear the sounds in our environment. Fortunately, we are blessed with 2 ears, each fitted with 30,000 fibers with which we hear sounds in a wide audio spectrum ranging from 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz, including leaves rustling in the wind, ocean waves hitting the rocks, acoustics of a theatrical symphony, and spasmodic thoughts of a woodpecker against a tree trunk. Isn't it an invaluable gift for which we ought to be more grateful? Again, we are blessed with a tongue that, in conjunction with the sound box, can create words to heal, console, uplift, entertain, cheer, and educate. How fortunate for us. Our brain is fitted with 100 billion neurons that combine to make trillions of circuits. This gives us the ability to appreciate the perspicacity of the Upanishadic knowledge, the aesthetics of Shakespeare's play, and the logic of a computer software program, the ethical ramification of a situation, and the legality of our actions. Our blood flows through nearly 1 lakh kilometers of arteries and capillaries to deliver oxygen and nutrients to almost 40 trillion cells in our body. To drive the blood, the heart beats 100,000 times in a single day and 36 million times in a year. How miraculous! We have a musculoskeletal system with 650 muscles and 206 bones and 11 kilometers of nerve fibers, all synchronized to work at our command. They enable us to climb mountain peaks, run down valleys, dive into lakes, and swim across rivers. What a blessing! The organs in our body perform such complex functions that if these activities were to be replicated by machines, it would require a factory the size of a warehouse. It is obvious that we are beneficiaries of abundant grace. The list of our individual assets, physical and mental, can run into scores of pages. Yet, despite all the graces bestowed upon us, why is it that some people manage their resources so well that they move from accomplishment to accomplishment while others squander them and stagger from failure to failure? Once again, the answer lies in the state of the mind. The successful distinguish themselves from failures by their attitude, which is the ability to manage their own inner state. We have seen how the quality of our life, including joy, health, circumstances, and productivity at work, depends upon our state of mind. This book on the science of managing the mind is thus a powerful means of enriching ourselves. Let us understand this science and apply it in our everyday life. Summary of the main points. Our mind has the potential of becoming our best friend or worst enemy. A controlled mind is our best friend, while an uncontrolled mind is our worst enemy. The mind is a subtle machine within us that incessantly creates thoughts. Thoughts are little bundles of energy that impact us in multiple ways and affect our appearance, health, and experience of happiness, and much more. Most importantly, thoughts fructify into actions. If we wish to improve our actions, we must begin by improving the thoughts we harbor within ourselves. Thought by thought, we forge our destiny. When we cultivate noble and sublime thoughts in our mind, we naturally draw favorable circumstances in our life. The external world is made by God and is perfect for our elevation. Therefore, the change we need to bring about in our lives must begin from within.